Welcome everybody, just Mike here. Don't forget to subscribe because it's free. Anyway, let's get into this different type of clock I found. So here's the Keebler clock. You can tell someone's tried repainting this, and there's a chance maybe I'll do the same thing, but try to liven up it just a little bit better. Anyway, we're going to get into this clock. Like I say, it is a Keebler clock. You can tell it's all rusty looking and whatnot, but it does have the pendulum. What's missing are the two, I call them parakeets, that go on here. So let's take this thing apart and see just what it is we have here. And this here slides off. Make that a little easier. Really dirty inside. Spring doesn't look too bad. I mean, the whole clock's dirty, that's for sure. But let's go ahead and take these two screws off. I do believe these hands can stay on, but we're going to find that out pretty quick here. When you're screwing these in time, you're going to start really shoving it in further than what it's supposed to be. It's undone, just it's stuck. There we go. So the minute hand has to come off. And I don't know how easy it's going to be because the center's missing because of the paint. There we go. So like I said, this gear stayed on, which goes to the hour hand. And sometimes, yeah, there we go. Sometimes the hole's big enough you can wiggle it through so you can clean that gear as well. This here's a wood that they pulped, and I imagine they added glue to it and pressed it into a mold. This one's warped, and there's a chance, I don't know if I'm going to, but you can usually moisten these up again and then lay something heavy on it and re-flatten that to make that a little bit better. And then this will stick out like it's supposed to. So on this movement, the part's missing here that holds the two parakeets. So that first one was disappointment. This is the other one I have. Same thing, just it hadn't been repainted, and you can tell that it's got a crack going across there. Let's go ahead and take the screws out on this one and the minute hand. Now these don't always come off as easy as you'd think. I'm going to put a drop of oil on here because I discovered using a drop of clock oil, let it set for 15 seconds and it usually comes right off. Yep, 15 seconds, it came right off. it does have a pin here and here. On the other one, it only had one pin. So let's take this the rest of the way apart and see what it does is it attaches to the part of the pendulum, we'll say, and that's what causes it to the birds to move back and forth. So this one's wound up all the way. I don't know if you can see in here or not. Let me see if I can get some light for you. So when this ticks, these two rods move back and forth, and that's what causes the birds to move. As you can see in here, it's really, maybe you can see in there, it's really filthy in there, dusty. So we're going to go ahead and take this one apart, clean it, and see if we can get it going again. The first thing I'd like to try to do is release the spring. So I could be wrong, but so far I don't see anything I can do to release that spring. So I guess I'm just going to go ahead and we'll take some pictures like I normally tell you to do, because pictures are your best friend. And then we're going to go ahead and take these 4 nuts off, and I'll separate this and see what I can do about that thing there. Let's see what happens. It's a small spring, so it's not a wild one, just that I just soon have a better grip on it. See if I can kind of hold it. The pendulum. I guess that's one way of doing it. There we go. So there's no ratchet you can take it down with. I imagine you could put a zip tie around this and suck it in. These two here. This here is where the parakeet sets on, and these two mesh together and rock back and forth. Get that back in there. Okay, I got it back together the best I can. This here would go in here, and these teeth would grab onto this one there. Whoops. And then the holes right up here, that's what is controlled, or this here goes into that. So it's pretty simple, and been nice if I could have got this out a little safer. Like I say, maybe I should have stuck a zip tie on there. I'm usually famous for using zip ties. So just because, let me get a picture of what I got here. Now, more than likely, this only has so many teeth, and so some of those teeth on this one would go onto the teeth of this one for your pendulum. So just because, let me get a picture of this, and then I'm going to clean it and be right back. I forgot, let's take it apart together. This is the one that goes with the pendulum, and the top end will be going with this one, and that's what makes the birds move back and forth. Considering these don't look that bad inside. I mean, you can see the old oil and whatnot sitting on here. And I'm going to guess this isn't going to come apart. There is the spring in here. And that's what's going to keep the hands tight so they don't just flop around. And yeah, I can hold this gear and move it. So that's what that's for. If you want to take it apart, that's kind of a press fitting. You can get that off of there if you like. The way I look at it, I'm not going to do that. So because these gears are so small, I'm just going to put them in my, I guess I call it a tea basket. And let them clean in there so they don't disappear. And I'll go ahead and put my hand and gear in there because I want to make these white again also. And just put all these small parts in there. These are nuts. And 2 screws to the face. Just clamp together again. Now be careful with these baskets if you get them. See the little cracks here and there. If you put those E-clips in, those real fine ones, those things will find their way out of here, so be careful about that. So we're going to clean this, these two, and this looks like I can just clean it by hand. It's not all rusty, so I'm not going to repaint it, so that way it'll keep its normal look. I'll set this in the basket because this should be easy enough to find again. It's big enough. So I'll be back after I get all this done. So I looked online to see what colors this was supposed to be, and by the looks of online, they only highlighted certain things such as the leaves or the flowers in the background where the parakeets are. Nothing else was painted. So I painted mine the way they had that one painted, and the reason why I'm painting it is some people try to keep their existing color, and you saw what this one looked like. I wanted a livelier one, and so what I did is I painted all of this, and I added the ring also. But what I plan on doing now, once this paint dries, technically speaking, I'm going to use Old English over everything, and it will dull these colors also. Besides, liven this back up to a dark color. I didn't use this stuff first because I wanted to deaden these colors a little bit compared to being as bright as they are. So while this thing here is drying, I want it good and dry, so when I rub the stuff on there, I don't want it coming off. And also, as you saw, I haven't seen any of these painted, so I'm going to guess just the staining is going to be sufficient to try to look as natural as possible, or as if it was brand new, let's just say, but giving it a little bit of an antique. I'm going to try to get this thing back together again. I'll set the gears in, but then I'm not gonna show me putting them in with the next plate on, because these gears have such fine, I'm gonna call it a wire. It's a part that goes through the plate, and I don't want to bend them. And I know now for a fact these teeny little things, let's see if you can see that, the ends on there. If you get lazy like I did one time, I was starting to screw it down, moving them into place. I got lazy and didn't want to loosen the screw and started pushing this one in carefully, and carefully made this little wire here slide inside. And as far as I know, there's no way to get it out. I'm still playing with that part. So let's get this thing, let's just call it back together again. That's as far as I'm going to go, and I still need to slide the pendulum in there and then put the plates together. Just a word of warning, this is my second one I've taken apart, and the first one I messed up, and it's not this actual movement. Anyway, these pins, we'll call it, that come through the plate that hold the gears, that thin little wire, which is the size of this here, those are actually the same type of wire in there. Anyway, they go clear through the gear, and when you start kind of pushing them in here, the wires will start protruding a little bit further on one end. The other end will get so short there won't be anything. And so what you'd have to do, once you get the plate really close to where you can kind of snug it up, you're gonna have to get a hold of that wire that's sticking out and start pushing it through and make it sure it's coming up through the next plate also. Anyway, now that I've gone through that headache, we can go ahead and wind this thing up, get that spring back into where it's supposed to be. I have clock oil on this spring. Let's see, this does say it says it takes a number 3. I'm using the number 4 here. It's a little bit too big, and the number 2 doesn't fit on there. Let me go get the number 3 and see how well that fits in there. So here I have, that says number 3 right there. Fits a lot better. So I was just mainly winding up to get the spring back into place. I haven't even oiled this clock yet, so that's a good sign. Let me get it oiled and we'll put it back together again in the case. But first I need to get to this and get that last finish on here that I plan on doing, which is Old English, just to give it a bit of a stain. And hope I don't mess that up. So here you see I got the one bird on. I got the pendulum coming out straight. And these aftermarket birds. Here it is. Someone made these, and they used a piece of hollow tubing or whatever. Well, the pinhole in there is too big for it to actually stick to the bar coming out. So I just got a piece of Kleenex. I set it on there, and I just start stuffing it in the hole. And the way I look at it, you got that in there. The other one took 2 pieces. This way, you can stab the Kleenex in the center there and make it work. Because you got to get this in there and wedged and not too hard to break that little pin that's in there. Nope, he's already fallen off. The glue should pop back out again if they ever have to clean it. It worked or not. But I didn't have the box of the case on here, and I could see easily the rods that these birds need to go on. And this one's got the Kleenex stuffed in it. This one with a touch of glue. This one's got toothpicks that have been broke down in size, and it works to a certain point. Let me get the case on, see if this is going to work or not. Number 3 key. Birds are on. Pendulum. Weights. Fake weights. Also left is to hang it on the wall. So that was the Keebler clock that had the 2, they call them lovebirds on there. I thought they were parakeets. Anyway, according to this clock number is a 250. And they sold these between 1936 and 1941. And so that tells you kind of how old these things are, or flat out does. It does take the number 3 key. And back when these were first sold, which was quite a bit of money back then, was $3.50. Wouldn't that be cool if you get it for that price now? Brand new. Don't forget to subscribe and give me a great thumbs up. Until next time, let's see what kind of clock we're going to work on next. Oh, and let's not forget, God bless each and every one of you.